Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jason Dean of Washington Post Intelligence and Vivek Badrinath of GSMA.
Good afternoon. We're here today to talk about the digital dilemma, the gap in connectivity. 58% of the world's population, which is now connected through their own device, that still leaves more than 3 billion who are not. 90% of them live in places that are covered by broadband technology, but they're not connected. And as we speed into the AI era, that gap becomes more and more important. To discuss how to close that gap, I'm joined by Vivek Badrinath, who is the Director General of the GSMA and a veteran of decades in the mobile industry, who's been on the front lines and has a lot of insight into what needs to be done to get that next several billion people online. First, tell us about the people we're talking about. Where are the people who are not connected, and what is the economic situation that they're living in?
Yes, indeed. We've got 3.4 billion people who are not connected, of which 3.1 billion could be, at least from a network availability point of view, from a coverage point of view, and yet they are not. And they're essentially in low and middle income countries. They're essentially in Africa, to a lesser extent in Southeast Asia, and then to an even lesser extent, but also there in Latin America. So that's what we're talking about. And here you're hitting a population which has not yet crossed over into the digital era. So you've got typically day wage earners, low daily income, or sometimes reasonable monthly income, but accrued day after day.
Is this largely urban, largely rural, both?
Both. And as far as the usage gap is concerned, it's both urban and rural. And it's about a Maslow pyramid trade-off. Right? They've got food. Yeah. They've got food to pay for.
Right.
They've got housing to pay for, and they've got to fund the working capital for the daily activity, which, I mean, if they're trading, if they're in agriculture. So every day is an economic decision. So that's where you're hitting this level of difficulty, which is a phone, however cheap, remains an investment for people who have a daily cycle.
So in that context, I mean, we tend to think about phones as, you know, in advanced society, we use them for everyday life. But when we talk about a lot of the functions, particularly AI, we're talking about, in our minds, you know, fairly technologically advanced functions, right? We're using AI for coding. We're using AI for business functions. We're using AI to make videos. Why is it important to get this technology in the hands of people who can barely scrape together enough to get by?
Well, I think AI brings you a whole different set of opportunities in low and medium income countries. Take education. If you don't have that many teachers in your rural area, if you want to reach a certain level of expertise in your learning, where do you go apart from the internet? And indeed, AI is a way to bring in a language which may not be English, Spanish, Chinese, French, or Portuguese, but indeed in a language understood in certain regions of Africa or Latin or Asia. AI brings you both the language skills and the education. Take the speeches and the roundtable, 2 roundtables ago on healthcare. When you don't have oncologists in the country, using AI to at least do a first level of image interpretation and then sending to experts is necessary. If you look at agriculture, we found a number of startups that have, thanks to our innovation program, looked into AI as a tool to help optimize crops. These are all areas where you see AI.
You've seen this happen. It's not hypothetical. You've seen this happen. Can you give us an example?
Yeah. You could take, for instance, in Zambia, a voice managed AI in local language, which is about ask me anything. Those are the kind of applications where suddenly a person who doesn't speak English, who may not even be literate, gets access to AI knowledge through a phone.
What kind of questions are those folks asking? Would it be about like how to grow crops?
It starts with simply the weather.
Yeah.
It starts with the weather. It starts with what's the quantity of crops that you can expect when you have this much money. I mean, it's those kind of questions as well.
So what is the most important thing that needs to happen to get more of those people online?
So there's really three major items. One, first and foremost, is device accessibility. And so when you look at it as day wage earners, then that smartphone itself is an investment, is a step. We've been working in the Affordable Handset Alliance to try to bring that price down. So governments need to play their part. If they're going to tax these as if these are luxury items, it defeats the purpose. South Africa removed the luxury tax on smartphones less than $140, and that is beginning to have a real impact. That's enabling our members in those regions to bring out very affordable phones. And we're working with manufacturers to bring them to, I would say there's a magic price around $30 or $40. At 30, and so you're smiling. You're saying,
I mean,
what are you making?
An iPhone is $1,000 plus now.
Yeah, and I'm there making a big fuss about a $30 phone, right? And but that $30 phone, if you can get it into those 3.1 billion hands, that's $3 trillion to the economy, because those phones unlock digital inclusion, unlock access to mobile money, access to AI, access to smart agri, etc. So what's the issue with these $30 or $40? It is about, if we were, first, what's the scale of the elasticity? At $30, we estimate that 1.6 billion people could enter the internet age. Kind of worth it. And all the potentialities that it brings. And it's not a $30 potentiality for them. It's much, much more if they can cross that hump.
And these are like fully functioning
Their entry, they may not have the highest quality of camera.
Yeah.
They will have, but they're very functional entry-level smartphones that give you access to the internet, that give you access to the content, that allow you to download apps, that allow you to do mobile payments, that allow you to access content. Video and music as well. So it's not that they're, dumbed-down versions of phones. And that's the work we're doing with a number of vendors to try to bring it there. And the difficult part is financing for those $40 phones.
Right. So who pays for that? I mean, it's only $30, but as you're saying, to these people, that's a lot of money.
So we have a bit of work going on. The World Bank is part of our alliance to try to fund the gap. What is the gap? An operator can quite easily and be quite forthright about funding a phone as long as they can recover the cost of the phone through the services that they provide over time. The issue is the phones that get lost, that get stolen, or where a person decides after a few months, either because they can't or because circumstances have changed, that they can't keep paying that monthly or daily or weekly installment that allows them to keep the phone. So that's the risk that we're looking to fund. And that's the risk that we're trying to crack. By doing that, we would unlock 1.6 billion phones that could get people on the on-ramp for the internet.
What's the role that the operators have to play in this? I mean, are they also offering, you're getting the phone price down to $30, or the plans that these people are on with their $30 phones also being lowered?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, of course, the affordability of the value proposition is essential. But we saw in South Africa, just on the back of that tax reduction, we saw phones being promoted at $5 entry price with some extra every month or every day to get the phone into the without too high a hurdle to get them into people's hands. So getting phones is one big thing. And then there are other factors. There's education. Right. And there's first of all content, relevant content. You're in a country, you don't speak, all content cannot be in English. So working on, thanks to AI models, through LLMs in different languages, like we've done in Kazakhstan with the University of Barcelona, with the supercomputer in Barcelona. There's a Kaz LLM in Kazakh language. That's now bringing a wealth of content with a relevant, good quality translation into that language. And a number of operators across Africa are now developing specific language-based AIs that make the phone relevant, because it might look like very little, $30 or $40, but that's a choice. It's still an investment. And so you make that investment if you think you can get a benefit out of the phone. And the other part is really working around the fears around the phones, being scammed, being hacked. And so we've worked with a number of our operator members and through them in market to bring an internet starter toolkit. It's reached 80 million people already, and it explains how to use the internet safely, what a phone can do for you, what are the settings that you need to make so that you don't get into issues, how to manage spam. Those questions are in short videos in multiple languages.
Come on the phone?
And they come, that's the best way to show it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You touched on something that's interesting there. How do you, and this isn't necessarily the role of GSMA, but in general, how do we make sure that the content that is getting to these folks is safe? We have enough of a problem in very developed economies making sure that AI-generated content is accurate. The issues of scams and frauds that you talked about are a problem in places with very developed infrastructure. How can we make sure that that's not happening in places where there are fewer people watching?
I think there's two parts to the answer. One of them is we are only a part of the chain. We provide connectivity, but if you have spurious content on certain media or platforms, that's something that needs to be addressed, and that's the point. On the other hand, we as an industry approach this very early with the ethical AI framework that we've brought out, and already 50 operators have embarked onto this. And these are simple principles around if you use AI, it should be you should be sure that it's demonstrable that it avoids bias, that the methods used are indeed properly tested, that you don't just throw an AI out there and hope it works, and that indeed you do diligence it. And so the operators that bring out AI-based services follow these processes. Fighting against scam and fraud is anyway an ecosystem battle. So we are happy to play our part. We feel that trust in digital economy, trust in the mobile phone services is essential for us to be credible. So we are ready to play our part, but we've got to recognize that we only hold a part of the chain. The banks also need to play safe and be careful that when they detect a risk, they should be able to protect the consumers or the banked population. And media companies, social networks also need to ensure that they put in place those tools, and we are ready and open to cooperate with them to make sure we keep the place safe.
You're talking about a lot of areas that require a lot of cooperation among a bunch of different entities. You, in your industry, in your association, is at the nexus of an industry that is in some ways fragmenting because of geopolitics, in particular the U.S.-China widening tech divide. Does that have an impact on the ability to that fragmentation? Does that have an impact on the ability to roll out connectivity to more people in the world?
Look, we recognize that governments have the full and total legitimate right to fix the rules that they feel are right for their safety in their international relations, and that's all fine. But we're an industry that has been built on being global. Mobile would not have reached these 5.8 billion users on the planet if it hadn't been able to achieve this scale through the fact that there's 1 billion Chinese people and 1 billion Indian people who hold smartphones, and that allowed the cost to decrease. You will recall that 40 years ago, there were several standards on the planet, and so which meant that when you traveled, it didn't work, or you had to go and rent a phone at the airport looking for the proper standard. All those things are behind us. We've achieved since 2010 the unicity of the global 4G standard, and everyone can benefit from it. So it's good for the roamers and the travelers, but more importantly, that's what's allowed the industry, the equipment vendors, the phone manufacturers, to actually bring the cost down at a speed and at a scale that is unprecedented. We don't want to lose that. That is, I think, one core asset for our industry. We can play safe with certain equipments. Countries can decide on their policies on what to use and where to use it, but not benefiting from both the scale and the innovation that comes from all over the world would, I think, be a loss for the world.
With that call to action, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Vivek, and thanks to everybody in the audience.
Thanks, Jason.